Dane and Derek is an uncensored, unfiltered podcast. You can find content warnings in the episode description. Thank you for listening. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dane and Derek. This is your weekly one-stop destination for all things Dane and Derek. My name is Derek. I'm a filmmaker who still has a job at the moment of recording this, and AI has not replaced me yet. With me as always is Dane.
Yep, I'm Dane. I'm a writer and a law student, lover of many things. And AI has not replaced me yet either, and I'm pretty damn skeptical it's gonna. And I'm sure we're gonna get into why. But it has been a hot second since Derek and I have given an update on what's going on with us.
Oh yeah.
What's new with you, Derek, in the realms of filmmaking and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so in the realm of filmmaking, I am in post-production on the documentary.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's weird to be in post-production with only about 50% of the film shot. But the bulk of our filming is done. We're going to get the remaining 50% in the next 2-3 months through interviews and other supplemental events that we're filming. But for the most part, filming's done and editing has started, and it's a lot of footage to work through. I was telling my producer and I did the math, and I think we're at 12 or 14 terabytes that we're going to need a drive for this entire project. And it's because of all the archival footage, all the interviews. 4K really messes everything up. It doubles or triples your media size. And then on top of that, there's more archival stuff that I learned about that I reminded myself of today. I've known about this, but I forgot that we need to archive and digitize a few more things. And so now I have no idea. I thought I had a good number on the math, but I don't know if I do anymore. So we might just have to get big drives. So sorry, Farah, we're going to have to buy big drives for this because I don't have a drive big enough to hold this film anymore. So yeah, it's been post-production time. It's nice to have we've talked about editing on the show briefly, I think, but it's just nice to have something you can do that is solitary and meticulous. So been working through that. How about you? How's law school been?
Law school has been a challenge. I would describe this semester, which is my third of 6, first of my second year. Believe it or not, as of recording this, I've got about a month until I am in on the back half. I will shortly be in the back half of law school, which is a weird thing to say and weird thing to think about, but it's coming up quick. And that's fantastic. I love that part. This semester has been just a trial of willpower. I took a lot of classes, and there's just a pretty high amount of energy that I require to get to some of them, and it's just a little frustrating. And so I keep hitting a wall kind of emotionally. However, I'm also doing one of the law reviews, one of the journals. It's specifically the technology law journal. So I'm actually kind of knee deep in AI law research. Which is part of the reason I suggested doing this episode. And just to talk about other parts of life, because they also exist. I'm still plugging away at the novel. I have been for a while, since the summer, and I'm still happy enough with it to keep writing in it. I still don't really know how good it is, but I won't until I finish it and give it to somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm in that space. I have edits back from my editor on a different novel that I still haven't gotten a chance to really dig into, but I think that's going to happen after this other novel that I'm writing currently. I've reached a finishing point on, because I'd like to come to a close on that idea.
You
before
are
I leave
swimming in
it.
writing.
I'm swimming in all kinds of writing. I'm also writing this paper, this note about generative AI in air quotes and copyright law.
Huh.
So, anyways,
Yeah. So
how?
AI, I'll put
Yeah.
it this way. I'm also skeptical of it replacing just because it's it's a I've always viewed it as like it's a tool to aid people.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a yeah, and I don't know. I'd like to think people would follow like that one dude's law of robotics. I forget his
Yeah.
name, but anyway, that's where I stand on it. I think all jokes aside, like I feel like AI has been in filmmaking tools for a long time. It just hasn't been branded as AI, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote. And so I'm curious to hear uh your thoughts on it because as far as AI, I'm not as much as I maybe should be more read into it as a film person. I'm not as read into it as I should be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm curious.
So I would describe the technology as both incredible and also not exactly what most people think it is.
Mm,
So if you go to like ChatGPT and you ask it to write you a script about something, it can do it. It's for now, and this might change someday. Um, and at the rate AI changes, it so far it could be very soon. What's generated is pretty bland and often full of errors. Its jokes aren't funny. At best, they're kind of trite. Um, and there's a if you go to Midjourney, for example, what visuals you're going to get in response are exactly what you'd expect and exactly what you asked for. Um, and so it's a tool, definitely. And also, I would describe it as I don't love the term generative um, because it sounds like a creation. I would describe it as predictive. What AI does, and I'm sure a lot of people listening know this, but like what it basically does is it creates what the most likely outcome image wise, uh, writing wise, etc. Um, based on everything it's been trained on, which is a lot. Um, and so it's predictive. It will give you what it thinks is the most expected response. To quote my professor from the other day, if you were to say to ChatGPT, a Lannister always pays his blank, it's going to give you debts, right?
yeah.
Um, and so like what I think about it is it's a potentially very potentially it is an extremely powerful tool for a lot of formulaic stuff. It's great. Like if you wanted to put together like a pretty standard looking sort of like form, it's pretty good at that. However, especially from like a legal perspective, because some lawyers, idiots, went out and used it to write legal briefs and all this stuff, it's not fact checked at all. um, because it's not making choices. That's a really key thing to understand. It's not making choices. It's doing what's the most likely thing. So if you ask it to write on, say, a legal issue, at best, it's going to quote cases that most likely come up in those areas. It can't make you a very
Mm,
novel argument using weird, unexpected precedent. It can't, and also it may not even use those right, the whatever citations it uses correctly because it's just putting in what's most likely to be there, not what's actually should be. Um, or what you think is best, right? And so it's a good tool in many ways, and I also think that the danger in it lies less in the right now it just making stuff for people and nobody wanting art from artists and more in misinformation and disinformation and using AI to make a mediocre script and then hiring a writer to punch it up. See the strikes that happened and or are happening in Hollywood. And so like I think that it's the danger in it lies way more in the are artists going to get paid? Is the work that people do in like more business sectors and whatnot going to be accurate and helpful? Rather than, are people going to stop wanting something painted by a human? Fuck no. Because the truth is, and I was talking about this with some of my classmates who some of them are not artists, so they don't have like this background. I was in a creative writing class once, and one of our professors said, all stories. Oh no, Gracie, who's a writing major. All stories are either someone leaves town or someone comes to town. And all other stories are like there isn't really another story. Is like the joke. But the thing that's great about that really is like if you get down to it, okay, so no, there's nothing that's like truly original or whatever. I don't think that's that sad. What you're going for is you want to hear somebody tell the story, so to speak.
Right.
And so it's more about the artist. And so I don't think that AI is in danger of taking that away because I don't know, like it doesn't matter how pretty the image of that the AI generates unless I'm using it for some kind of like presentational purpose. Like I'm just trying to make an image to demonstrate a point or whatnot. I'd rather have an artist because I want their I want their voice, right? It doesn't do anything for me as a human being to be shown content created by a machine because I know that there was no choice in there. They didn't. It did not create something with an intent to tell me something, to communicate something, to connect with me, and in that way, it loses the value for me in a lot of ways. And all I'm left with is the thing, and the thing only has so much material values, so to speak. So that's kind of like my more philosophical take on it. I could go into my paper if you want, but meh.
Yeah, I mean, you're still working on it. Maybe whenever you finish the paper, just let me know and I'll add it to the show notes. And if that's years from now, that's okay.
We'll see. I could give my thesis, but it gets kind of into the weeds about copyright protection, and that's not really the show.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We could do an episode where we read aloud your paper, and then you can package it together.
No,
and then it's an accompanying audiobook.
Nobody wants
with
that.
the soothing voice of Dane Fogdell by a campfire, sipping a hot bourbon, reading his law paper.
Hot bourbon.
No, is it hot whiskey? What's the alcohol you heat up?
Cider?
Brandy?
I mean, I suppose
is it brandy that's warm?
I don't know. I think you can heat up a lot of alcohols, but
maybe you don't heat up alcohol, and I just
well, no, you do. There's like a hot toddy. Like that's
that?
Oh fuck, I can't remember what booze is in it, but it's like tea mixed with booze, like hot tea mixed with booze.
Okay.
Yeah, and then like mulled apple cider, mulled wine, like that. No, that's totally a thing. I don't know, like, and bourbon's like really good as a flavor warm, like a caramel apple bourbon apple crisp, like that shit's great.
So it's Dane Fogdell by the fire, drinking a caramel apple bourbon. At night in a soothing, slow voice reading his legal paper for our listeners to listen to about copyright and AI.
I don't think that's it.
Maybe one of these days we'll do it as a. It's like one of those things where, like, if we were ever to do like a charity stream with like goals for how much money we raise, that has to be like one of the goals.
Sure, I could see that. I could see that if we had a Patreon, I could release that as like and read it really slow.
Yeah,
kind of quiet. It's like an ASMR sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
just put some nice crackling fire
Crackling
sounds.
fire
We
sounds.
could make a really funny thumbnail for like the image that is like just
Yeah.
the album art.
Like in like a what it's like in a robe with like an ascot or whatever by the
Yeah.
fire, and there's like a pipe that I'm not actually smoking. Yeah, no, we could totally do that. No, we could do that. That'd be very silly and
It's
fun.
like it's like the dog cast.
Oh, we could yes, totally. We could do that for April Fools. We could make
Yeah,
like a false um
legal
uh
paper
not
or reading.
or what's the word? Like a false uh podcast art
Yeah.
for it.
Okay. There we
Yeah.
go. There we
Yeah,
go. Okay.
special art. We got there. We got there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what we can do, Dane? We can
Mm-hmm.
have AI generate it.
Oh, we
I'm
could.
kidding. I'm kidding because it's interesting that you're making these distinctions. One, because I think they're very true, and I don't think a lot of people think about those distinctions. I think a lot of people are quick to say, "Oh, it's making stuff," or "It's stealing my art and making stuff," and
Mm-hmm.
those things are, yeah, very true. It's stealing. If it's not, like, isn't there? There's a suit right now going on
There
about.
is a lawsuit.
There's like a big one because this company trained,
Yeah.
yeah, an AI
Yeah.
on images they may or may not have owned, but it's through a research company that did this, and so it's like,
Okay. We are going to get
yeah,
into the legal bit of it a little bit. For what it's worth, it's, I don't think they stole anything.
mm,
I think it's fair use, and there's precedent for that. That kind of leans in its favor a little bit. But more than that, I think that there's something really uncomfortable that we do kind of have to like come across, which is, if you think about it, the AI was trained using it. It was learning, meaning that what they're saying is it is not fair use to use our art in the learning of something, because
oh,
the AI does not have a database out there of all of pictures of all art that's ever been made.
oh,
It learned
interesting,
patterns based on all of the art that's ever been made, so to
interesting.
speak. And so, how did you learn to make films? You watched a bunch of them.
Right, and then you emulate, you copy until you're able to develop something that feels,
You copy the patterns, right? You learn the
yeah.
patterns, you learn the ones you like, you learn what it means,
Oh,
you learn what a close-up means, or like a vertigo angle is like, right? Like you learn all of that stuff, right? And
uh-huh.
then you know what that means, and then you apply it to make it to express your story your way, right?
Interesting.
And so it's like saying I was breaching copyright and stealing when the first song I ever sang and played guitar on simultaneously was Night Train by Amos Lee.
Right.
Um, I
Huh.
don't think I was breaking anybody's copyright. I think that was fair use. Um, and
Oh,
and so I think there's something really uncomfortable with that.
yeah. Did you
That
just put
might
your
set
hands
up,
on your head?
huh?
Did you just put your hands on your face?
Yeah, I did. I put my hands on like the back of my head and like lifted my shoulders up.
Well, there we
Um,
go. That was the energy. Yeah, no. Yeah, that is terrifying. That is mortifying. The idea that
yeah,
that to take away the ability to learn from that out of fair use. Like, that's an extreme speculation, but like, or catastrophization of it,
a
but
little bit.
I think like that is interesting. That is an interesting conundrum because it is just learning. It is not. It is not. Yeah. Fair use definitely is about learning. Wow. Dang. Man,
There's
I'm gonna have to sit with that.
Yeah, there's some complications there. I would also go on to say that something that's really important to understand about copyright law, this is just getting back into the stealing aspect of AI, because a lot of artists definitely feel like they've been stolen from. And I think with the fear and all of that, I think that the reaction is really justified. I just don't think it all follows through.
Yeah.
Um, so the thing to understand about copyright is copyright should be understood as the exception, not the rule. Um,
Mm,
we often think about copyright as the baseline, and getting to around people's copyright is the baseline, or
gotcha.
is the exception, when
Uh
really
huh.
it should be kind of more understood as the opposite, right? Like I think it's better to understand art as more in the idea of like, here's a question: who owns the Persephone and Hades story?
Mm.
Nobody. Who owns the ideas and the concepts behind most of Shakespeare's stuff? Nobody. And it's better that way.
Yeah.
Something to understand about copyright is an artificial it's or let me rephrase. It's an artifice that's been placed around art to
Uh-huh.
incentivize um incentivize capital, like to incentivize corporations, business people, all of this to pay for art more or less,
Huh.
for expression, to protect the economic interests of creative expression. That's what it's
Interesting.
for. It's not about actually somehow owning every little aspect of your art. You don't. Um, and so I think that people get very protective because it is theirs. Um, but it's not quite what you think it is. And so people are like turning to copyright law in a big way to protect themselves, to try and like be like, you can't use this to make this AI thing work that's going to end up stealing our stuff. I don't think that's a great idea. I don't think that's really going to work super well because it's just not what it's about.
Uh-huh.
I think copyright could be used to continue to incentivize corporations to hire humans, because what
Mm-hmm.
copyright does is it makes certain pieces of art, stories, characters valuable. And if they only come from humans and you can't use AI to make valuable ideas, then it's at best a tool that artists get to use. That's what AI could be, right? Um, and then the corporation still needs someone to have generated the concept, you know. And so that's kind of where I land on it, personally, at least.
Huh. Wow. This is a lot to process.
Yep.
There's
Sorry.
a lot to think about. Um wow. Huh. Huh.
Like I said, I am knee deep in this stuff right now.
Yeah, and just cuz I'm wondering, are you enjoying being knee deep in this stuff?
Fuck yes, I am.
Okay, that's
Um,
that's all I want to hear, cuz I think like from like my perspective with AI, right? It's like the industry of course is striking about it right now.
mhm,
And we've seen horrible examples of AI being used to create content and art.
mhm.
I think it's very complicated. Personally, I don't feel like I will be utilizing AI in the way that we've been seeing it. Like I've met a lot of people at work who are using like Chat GPT and stuff like that to like generate ideas for videos or viral things. I've seen people like use it to like help brush up their dialogue or that or give them history blurbs about things they're doing. Um,
I would encourage people not to do the history bit.
yeah, it's stuff like that. There's just stuff like that that I'm like, uh. Even AI generating thumbnails. Like I was experimenting with that for work, and it was
Mhm.
grotesque to say the least. Now, where I've seen it be really interesting, right, is like individual like animators training an AI on their art and then using the the generativeness of it to generate their things to help them animate.
Yeah,
And that's in my opinion, perhaps a good use of the tool.
that's fucking
Um,
sweet. No, that's awesome. That's an
yeah,
awesome way
I've
to
like
use it.
yeah, exactly,
My
and
In
yeah,
the same
mhm.
way, my professor, who, if you think I'm knee deep in this stuff, this man is like up to his eyes.
Oh God,
He this is his thing. He started studying AI and intellectual property like 20 years ago.
oh my goodness,
He's having a moment, is what I'm saying, is that
wow,
his thing has come, for it's his day.
this is his
It's
moment in
so
the sun.
it's absolutely his moment.
Yeah, that's great.
He uses AI to generate images for his classes, basically.
Uh huh.
um and like I think that's another great use of it. Like, he just needs a visual representation of something. He's
Yeah.
not an artist.
Uh-huh.
He just asks for something and it's there and it
Yeah.
works, right? I think that's another great use of it. Love that animation use of it. I hadn't heard of that, but that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense to
That
me.
that's the thing. There was a filmmaker that I also follow. He used AI to generate images of what it would mean to cast an actor he really wanted in the leading role of his film, to
Hmm.
convince the producers to let him make this decision because they didn't think that that actor could be in a movie like this.
Yeah.
And it worked. They were able to cast that guy because
Hmm.
he like trained the AI on this dude's image and trained it on like the kinds of things his movie was about, and like made like, it's like that starring John Cho movement. Like, do you
Hmm.
remember those back in the
Hmm.
day?
I do.
Yeah, it's like a version of that. It's just it's a more fast, potentially more inaccurate, or sometimes very accurate, way of doing of pitching something or creating storyboards. Like another filmmaker I follow used it to generate. He made a bunch of like rudimentary stick figure sketches,
Yep.
and then used an AI to slap like still frames on it, to help like him with a storyboard.
Which is a
Um,
fantastic use of it, I think. And
yeah.
I think that's where the difference is it's like
Hmm.
we don't think of Photoshop as not being art because like I think it's not art when like someone puts something in and then that's it, right?
Yeah.
Ask for a script of a new episode of The Office, say, and then you get it and you're like, I did it. You didn't. Nobody did. That's just a predictive model of what like the most likely outcome of
Yeah.
an Office episode might be, right?
Correct.
Um, but you do that and then you really work it through. That might be something. That might be something. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
And again, there's this other thing I frequently go back to, which is um we constantly think that technology is going to kill all previous things.
Hmm.
It doesn't. Um, if that were true, we wouldn't have stage plays.
Hmm.
We wouldn't have movies because
Painting.
arguably video games are better somehow.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have painting, all down to stuff of like people still make furniture by hand,
Yeah.
right? And we pay a lot of money for custom furniture, like a lot. Not a lot of people relative to how many people used to make custom furniture in air quotes, because that just used to be how furniture was made, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's even same with like people still fix cars and build vehicles. It's not
yep.
all assembly line stuff. Like you've built a car with your bare hands, kind
Yeah.
of.
And
Uh
to be frank, right? Like people have still been writing funny for ages. Like
yeah.
think about Jack Kerouac writing The Road just straight, like just down, like just down the page. He just did it, right? That's
Hmm.
even back then. That was a weird thing to do. That was not how it was done. And there's something interesting and valuable about that from a creative perspective as like art. So if someone now was like, I just wrote this, I didn't use AI. I'm like, okay, that was a choice. That was not the easy thing to do. Um, And I also think that there's something to be said about like, no, 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 I wanted to craft every word myself. On the
Hmm.
other hand, if what someone does is I write romance novels and I release 3 a year, that all basically follow the same plot already, and now I just like pump them out even faster. I'm like, well, that's a different thing that you do, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference
Hmm.
between them using a sander and the other person being like, I use sandpaper by hand. I,
Yes.
I don't know. Like, I
Yeah.
think that there's a lot to be said about it. It's not a monster. The only thing I'm afraid of is it being used poorly to uh, put people out of work and
Hmm.
to lie. That is what I'm afraid of it with. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Huh. Maybe we'll do a. I've been saying this a lot, but we'll probably do a part two. Talk about AI and lying and other art. Maybe by that point we'll have found a way that we use it in our own lives.
yeah.
I don't
I'm
know.
I'm toying with it more than I ever thought I would,
Huh.
as just to understand it for what I'm writing.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
you know
you are.
what?
Hmm.
I'm personally, it's amazing. Like there is the speed at which it just works is kind of terrifying, but like it doesn't tempt me into writing my novels any differently.
Uh,
Because a part of that is I want to write.
yeah,
Like
I suppose that is also what struck me when I used it to generate some images at work. Like, I was like, okay.
do you want to know what the most tempted I've been with for it, like is to use like the image generation to create custom art for like NPCs and the players for my D&D
Uh,
campaigns. But you know what, but I still haven't done it because I'm like, I don't know, I like my imagination better. And Gracie and I, for the campaign we're finishing right now, we went out and got art of a ton of NPCs and characters, and I love it so much more than anything an AI could generate. Even though
mhm.
from just like a pure like aesthetic, it's as good, or I don't
Yeah.
know, I don't know, like it, but it's not because I can see the artist's hand in it, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't see it in AI, and I don't know if you ever will be able to, because eventually it's not going to make any mistakes.
Mhm.
And art is also about the mistakes. It's about the wrong
Yes.
notes. It's about the like that was kind of a clunky line, or oh, that's
Yeah.
a very human thing,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
who wants perfect art?
Right. And also frankly, it can't go first.
Yeah.
It needs a Wes Anderson to make a Wes Anderson film.
Oh my
Wes
god,
Anderson
yeah.
does not, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Oh my goodness.
And I think that's something to remember, is that like it's not generative, it's
Yeah.
predictive.
Mm.
And it's amazing, and I think so much good could come from this tool. I really do. And so much ill also. And so we
Yeah.
need to be thinking about it. We need to be careful with it.
Yeah.
Um yeah.
Huh.
Anyways, we're kind of at time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all good. No,
I
this was
talked
really
a lot
fantastic.
in this episode.
It's been a while since we've had an episode like this, but also I think it was pretty informative for folks that might not know some of these nuances. Um, but yeah, thank you everyone for listening to this week's episode on predictive AI. Uh, Tune back in next time for not an AI episode, but maybe sometime in the future for more AI. Or if we ever do something fun or funky, we'll do a we'll have a prize be that Dane reads something like this or something with the album art and whatever. We'll
Yeah.
figure something to goofy up
Yeah.
to goofy it up. But yeah, thanks everyone. As usual, you can follow the show at Dane and Derek everywhere. You can go to my website. That took way too long. Benigfilms.com. You can watch a bunch of our old janky student work that we made when we were in high school.
Mhm.
Um, that is definitely not AI generated, or AI predictedly made. But yeah, Dane, what about you? Where do you exist when you're not knee deep in AI?
I exist at danewrites.com. There's some links out to basically just past work of mine. I don't have anything super current up there these days, but hopefully that'll change sometime in the future. I'm just working on a lot of long form stuff that just takes a long time to get going anywhere, and I don't want to post a portion of my novel somewhere before I've like even taken real shots at publishing it yet.
Yeah,
So like I'm just kind of like stuck. I'm not doing a lot of short form work these days. But I think there's good poetry and some good short stories. Still really proud of a lot of what's in Diceology, so go listen to that. Old music that I still quite fond of. And I guess I have an Instagram. It's mostly so that when employers Google me, I look like a pure person, like other people who have Instagrams and stuff. There's not much on there. Yeah.
yeah. It's a it's a bearstagram.
For
Ugh.
now, I put new photos in there a couple sometimes.
Yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, man, we got to do a social media episode at some point. But
Yeah.
another time,
Another
another
time.
time.
couple of lies, but hell, maybe I'm wrong. So listen to my song. What's left is only sand. Just listen to that band. But my dear, what do I hold? I wish that I was bold. I'm out here on the sand, not far from land, and sure, I'm warm, but I wish I was cold with you. Here's the problem: there's no life here, not a stem. It's all in the sea. The love, the lyrics, the life, see. I'm out here on the sand, not far from land, and sure, I'm warm, but I wish I was cold with you. Sometimes you tell me jump in, come on and swim, but why am I still here? It all seems so clear. I'm out here on the sand, not far from land. Sure, I'm warm, but I wish I was cold.